So as we continue to look at angles, this is going to be something that you probably haven't heard of yet, and it's transversals. So before we look at what that is, we need to know a key definition here. So what's the same and what's different between both of these? You may have noticed that for A, B, and C, D, there's a special symbol that we've got on these lines. It has a special meaning that we looked at in a previous video. And we can say A, B, and C, D are parallel, and they're always the same distance between each line, and that's one of the definitions of parallel lines. And you can obviously see P, Q, and RS are not parallel because they cross over each other and they have an intersection. So you may also get something in between where they're not parallel, but they also do not specifically intersect. Now, if you were to extend the lines, then obviously they would intersect each other. But in this case, you wouldn't classify these as either. They're not intersecting and they're not parallel. So this leads us to a key definition here. When you have two lines that can be parallel or not, a line that crosses over those two or more lines is a transversal. So the purple line here is a transversal. Here, the purple line is a transversal. And you may even have lines which are parallel to each other, and then you've got a line crossing over both of them. This is a transversal. Now you may have also like a third line crossing over. It doesn't really matter. Either way, this purple line is a transversal because it crosses over two or more other lines. So which of these lines are transversal? Pause the video and think of which numbers could answer these, and then I'm going to go through this. So let's have a look. Line 1 only crosses over one other line, so this is not a transversal. So we're just going to put a cross there. Line 2 only crosses over another line at this point, so this is also not a transversal. Line 3 has two intersections, so line 3 is a transversal. And then line 4 crosses over two or more other lines. In this case, it's exactly 2, so 4 is a transversal. So we're going to need to watch out for transversals within certain questions. Let's look at a practical example. So the transversal here is highlighted in red, and we're going to look at specific properties here. So it says, how could you link angles 1 and 5? Fill in the blanks with one of these 4 options. Have a read, pause the video, and I'm going to show you the answer in a second. So it says angles 1 and 5 are on the blank of the transversal. So they're both on the right hand side. So we know that the first thing we want to write here is on the right. And it says angles 1 and 5 are both blank lines A and B. So above or below. Well, if this is line A and B, you can see clearly that they are both above. So they're both to the right and they are both above. Let's look at another example here. So how could you link angles 6 and 2? So you can see here angles 2 and 6 are on the left hand side, so we're going to put left here of the transversal, and they're also both above the transversal. So another example here. So how could you link angles 4 and 8? Well, angles 4 and 8 are on the right hand side of the transversal, and angles 4 and 8 are both below lines A and B. And now this is important because what we've been finding here is angles which are corresponding. So corresponding angles have the same position as each other but on a different point. So here angles 1 and 5 are corresponding. Angles 2 and 6 are corresponding because they're both above the line and to the left of the transversal. Angles 3 and 7 are both to the left and below, so 3 and 7, and angle 4 and 8 are corresponding. So the definition for corresponding angles, you should jot this down, corresponding angles are on the same side of the transversal and the same side of the other lines. So let's look at some practical examples here. So we've got angles 1 and what are corresponding. I'm going to show you all of the questions. Just have a go with all of these and then I'm going to show you the answers. Okay, so the answers are 1 and C corresponding because they're both below the line and to the left of the transversal. Angle 2 and D. Angle 4 and B. And angle 3 and A. So I hope you got those correct. We're going to look at a few more examples here. So here's another diagram. So it says which is the corresponding angle to angle 2. So angle 2, so the transversal is highlighted in red because it crosses over two lines. And we can see the corresponding angle has to be in the same position around each of these vertices. So what we want it to be is below the transversal and to the left, which means that A is the corresponding angle. And we can say angle 2 and A are both below the transversal and to the left of the other two lines. This is how you construct a statement to show that they are corresponding. Another way you may have said this is angle 2 and angle A are on the same sides of the transversal and the other two lines. So looking at another example, we're going to look at a special case. Now, in your books, if you were to draw quite big two parallel lines, and you can use the square grid to help you just to make sure they are parallel, and then a transversal. Now, the transversal doesn't need to be a specific angle. It could be, for example, like this, could be like this, could be quite steep, either way. I would keep it relatively simple and something similar-ish to what I've done here on the screen. What you're then going to do is measure the angles using a protractor, and you're going to spot something interesting happening here. So in this case, if we get the protractor out, we can see that angle A, so let's call this angle A here. I'm just going to make the line bigger so I can use my protractor. So this angle here, I can see is about starting from 0, which is the inside scale. We're going to go up, and you can see it goes up to 60 degrees. So angle A here is going to be 60 degrees. If we measure the corresponding angle here, we're just going to put our protractor there. What you'll find is this angle here is also 60 degrees. The thing that's different to the previous questions is the fact that these lines here are parallel. So in the previous questions, these lines were not parallel, so we could not have done those symbols. They're not parallel. So we still have corresponding angles, but they're not parallel. When you have parallel lines like this, the corresponding angles, you will find that they actually end up being equal to each other. Now remember, angles on a straight line add up to 180. So if that's your vertex there and that's your straight line, this has to be 120 degrees. And that means that actually this also has to be 120 degrees. And this is one of the key ideas. Now we also know vertically opposite angles are equal. So if we focus just on this area here, then this angle is vertically opposite the 60, so it's going to be 60 degrees as well, and this angle here is going to be 120 degrees. So essentially what you end up with is the same thing at both of these vertices. They are going to give you the same angles because these two lines are parallel. So if we just label the rest of these angles, we're going to see that that's going to be 60 and this is going to be 120. Now, whichever way you've done your diagram, you're going to find A and E are equal. D and H are equal, C and G are equal, B and F are equal. And this leads us to a really important definition. We can say that corresponding angles in parallel lines are equal. So we can see these two are parallel lines because you've got the symbol there. And if they are parallel, that means that the corresponding angles are equal. So let's just finish this off. Pause the video and have a go at filling in the blanks. So we can see angles 1 and 5 are equal. Angles 2 and 6. Angles 3 and 7. Angles 4 and 8. So corresponding angles in parallel lines, and this is really key, they have to be parallel lines, are equal. So you're going to need a transversal and at least one pair of parallel lines. So we're going to look at this in a bit more detail in the next video.